Hey guys, my name is Haley and today I'm going to be filming my August wrap-up. I'm not gonna lie, I'm filming this a little early, but I have read so much in the last couple of days that I don't think I'm gonna read anything else for like the last 3 days of this month. So I'm just gonna record this now. I have 13 books to talk about, I believe, so let's just get right on into it. Also, if the lighting is weird, I am playing around with my ring light that I have not used in a little while because it is pouring rain outside. So this is what we're dealing with today because this is the day I have to film. Again, I'm gonna go probably from like least favorite to favorite. That's what I've been doing for the last couple of months and I really like that format. So we're gonna start with my least favorite of the month. And that would be The Hole, which I thought this was gonna be more fun than it was. I think I gave it like a 3.5 star. Actually, no, I'm pretty sure I gave it a 3 star. It was not that interesting. It was a fast read, I will say that. It's very short and I read it on my Kindle in like a day and a half, but it's just not what I expected it to be. It was fine. It was a very, very quiet novel. I know that's how Kate always describes like Asian lit, and it was fine. I did think it was menacing, but not menacing enough to be like horror. I think it's just like a very, very, very quiet commentary. And then another one that I did not enjoy and I'm actually very sad about this one because I've wanted to read this book like literally since it came out, and that is Kill Creek by Scott Thomas. And I'm the most upset about this because the beginning and like first 25 to like 40% was really, really interesting. Maybe even the first half, I would say. And then like about halfway through to like the 60% portion, that portion right there, it just lost everything that I liked about it. I liked when we were actually in the haunted house. And like there was one of the characters that I really didn't like, but I didn't care. I didn't like her character. She was very abrasive and aggressive. And then all of a sudden this book took a turn because they left the haunted house, and then for a while it was really interesting, and then it suddenly turned into a slasher. Like, no spoilers, but it suddenly turned into like a really cheesy slasher horror movie in my opinion. And I also really didn't like the way religion was handled, especially towards the end of this. There was a man who is a main character who writes Christian thrillers, and he's like our Christian thriller author, and they're like making fun of him because he's not a real horror author because he doesn't do anything inappropriate. And then his character, for reasons I will not name, takes a complete 180, and I really didn't like it. Oh my gosh, can you hear that rain? Is my phone picking that up? It's so loud. It just started pouring, like bucketing down rain. That fits nice for this vibe of filming. But yeah, no. Did not like the direction this took. I think I ended up giving it like a 3.25 stars because the ending kind of ruined it for me. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't like that it turned into this cheesy slasher, and I did not like what they did to his character at all. And then I read the first book in the Unwind dystology, the first one being called Unwind. I had planned to read this entire series this month, and that just did not happen because I had like some like kind of large books to get through, especially like a really large book that I will talk about later. I liked this. I gave it a 3.75 star. It's probably closer to a 4 because I liked the concept, especially once we got going, but like the beginning of this was kind of slow for me. The writing, you can tell this is one of Schusterman's like earlier novels because his writing isn't as good, and it's like very aggressively YA at the beginning, but I do love this world and I like the commentary on the concept of being unwound, which is up until you turn 18. I think it's from ages 12 to 18. Your parents can choose to unwind you, aka your body parts get taken from you and get distributed. And the whole idea is that you're not technically dead because all of your body parts have to be used and given to other people that need body parts, like if they had an accident or something. And it's a really creepy concept, and I did like the commentary towards the end of this, especially of what that means and why that's not okay, and how that means you're not the same person if you get unwound, and why this is even a thing. I also like to talk about the war in which this was created and how this happened when unwinds became legal. But yeah, I really like this. I am interested in reading the rest of the series. I don't think I'm gonna like binge them because I've heard that they're all kind of similar and this is the best one of the bunch, so I don't want to ruin my enjoyment of them by reading them too close together. But I did enjoy this and gave it 4 stars. And then I read 3 Dresden books this month. The first one being Turncoat. I'm not gonna lie, this one did not stick in my brain. I gave it like a 3.75, maybe 4 stars. I might just because I read them so close together, so they're like blurring in my mind of it being a series. Then I read Changes, which I remember quite liking, and the end of this book just threw me for a loop. I'm not gonna lie. So I was upset and immediately started the next book, which is called Ghost Story, and this might be my favorite Dresden book that I've seen, maybe second favorite, because I really liked one of the ones with his best friend Michael that I talked a lot about that I read on vacation when I was with Kate. It changes, does exactly what it says it does. At the end of Changes, a very, very drastic thing changes the idea of the entire series and takes it in a completely new direction. And then we get Ghost Story, which was just fascinating to see this new direction that the series is going in. And I think there's like 3 or 4 more books out, and one just came out, and I'm so excited to read the rest of the series, like more excited than I have been in a long time, having been reading it for a while now. And I love the direction this took, I'm not gonna lie. I gave this one 4.5 stars. And then I read my last 3 John Marrs books, which I'm a little bit upset about because now the only one that is out that I can't get my hands on is one that came out in the UK, I think, or comes out very soon in the UK, and it's not going to come out in the US for a while, I'm pretty sure, so I might have to make it book depository order. But the 3 that I read, this one being The Good Samaritan, and I gave this one like a 3.754 stars. This one was like real creepy and messed up from the get-go. I'm not gonna lie. And I binged this audio very, very quickly at the beginning of the month. And I don't think it's my favorite of his, but it is so messed up. Like the 2 main characters in this are so creepy, like even more aggressively so than a lot of his books. So that was an interesting one. I gave that 4 stars. And then I read Welcome to Wherever You Are, and I gave this one like a 4.25 to 4.5 stars. I actually really liked this. It's set in a hostel, I believe in California, somewhere in the US, which is not the case for most of his music. That's not the right word for most of his books. And I really, really liked the characters in this one. I think was the biggest difference is I don't always connect to his characters because a lot of them are usually incredibly messed up, and these ones, they were messed up but in a very believable way. Like not as out of this world, you're a terrible person, which I actually really liked the change of pace for some of his characters. So this might actually be one of my favorite of his, probably like top 3. And then I read Her Last Move. I also gave a 4.25 stars, and that's because this one was more of a detective novel, which not all of his books have been. They're usually just straight up thriller, but I really loved the pacing of this one, like compared to a lot of his books. It wasn't like drastic plot twists every 3 seconds like some of his books, but there were enough plot twists to keep the pacing like really at a good level. And I, again, really liked some of the characters in this one, so it might be closer to a 4.5. A lot of his books range in the 4.25 to 4.5 range for me. I think my favorite has been What Lies Between Us. I don't even know how to order these. They're all about the same level. I'd probably say my least favorite was The Good Samaritan. But it wasn't a bad book by any means. I just like a lot of his other books much more. Yeah, I have finished my John Marrs backlist, so I need to get my hands on the Minders as soon as humanly possible. As I say, I'm going to do these in order of rating and from least favorite to favorites, and then like lump them together and other things by doing like least favorites, Dresden, John Marrs. And now we're on to the ones that aren't series or not by the same author. The first of which I'm going to talk about I actually own. Where did I put that? Oh, it is with her other books. And that is The Priory. Oh, that I almost knocked myself out with that. The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. This might be my biggest disappointment of the year, and not even because it was bad, but because I had such high expectations because I loved the Bone Season series so much, and this is just so incredibly different because it's high fantasy. And it also might even be my fault because high fantasy has not been my MO this year. I have not read a single high fantasy, I think, other than this one. And I made the mistake of listening to it on audio because I don't want to carry this. This weighs like 5 pounds and I don't want to carry it around to read it. And I was like working a lot, so I was like, I can't do that. So I gave this a 3.75 stars. I do think it was too long for what it is, which I don't normally say that about high fantasy, but I do think that was the case with this. And I don't understand the world as much as I would have liked to, which again, might have been my fault because I listened to it on audio, and I even slowed down the audiobook like significantly to like 1.5, 1.6, and I never listened to an audiobook slower than 2 times speed. So I really tried, and I was like trying not to multitask as much so I could actually pay attention to this, and I listened to it in probably like 4 days, which was faster than I planned on consuming it. But I just had a chunk of time and I really wanted to finish this before the end of the month, before I have like crazy work days later this week. So I liked one of our characters. It's basically told from like 3 perspectives, mainly 2, but kind of 3. And I did not care about one of the perspectives, the like 3rd one, at all. Just could not have cared less. The 2nd perspective was like interesting at points once we got past like the first 25%. Her perspective was really interesting, and then I really liked our main perspective. But as the book as a whole, this is really heavy. I hate holding this up. But the book as a whole was not the most cohesive to me, which I'm really sad about because I love Samantha Shannon. And I just... There was a voice that the audiobook narrator did for like one of the characters, which thankfully did not show up very often. But there was a voice that the audio narrator did. She was a female narrator, and she kept doing this male voice that talked like he was like speaking through his teeth, and I hated it. Every time he came up, he was so annoying. Like, I would want to just skip through because the voice was, I couldn't do it. It was hurting my ears, which thankfully, again, that character did not show up very often, but when they did, I was like, please no. But yeah, this was a big disappointment. I might have to like go back and reread it physically at some point in my lifetime just to give it a better chance with all of the problems I have with the audiobook and the fact that I suck at listening to high fantasy on audio. But yeah, 3.75 stars. I'm not picking this back up with my hand. It's too heavy to hold. And next up, I feel like I haven't talked enough about, is Midnight Sun by Stephenie Meyer. I got this the day it came out. I pre-ordered it and it came on the day that it was released. And I literally tried to sit down and read this book. And when I say tried, I mean like I was actively enjoying it, but it still took me 3 days to read. Like, I had a whole day off in there in which I did nothing but read this book and go to church for like an hour and then come back and read this book. And it took me 3 days. I'm so confused why this took me so long to read. Like, it's almost 700 pages. And I don't know if it was just because I was reading every single word very carefully because I was so into the story. I loved this. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, if I haven't said that yet. And I think this was so clever being told from Edward's perspective, because when you're reading from Edward's perspective, you are essentially getting everyone's perspective because he can read minds. And like, he can turn it off when he wants to. But I loved being in his head. It made me so much more endeared to him. Like, I've always said my favorite Cullen is Carlisle, and that has not changed. But my second has always been like Emmett and like Alice. Actually, probably Alice. It would go Carlisle, Alice, Emmett, Edward for me. And then like Jasper, Esme, Rosalie, if we're doing all of the Cullens. I'm someone who really doesn't like Bella. Like, I don't find her fascinating at all, but being in Edward's head also endeared me to her a lot more, even not being able to read her thoughts and how he viewed her in the school, like around other people, how she is genuinely different from the other humans, which I found really interesting to see. And also, this is what I wanted from like the entire Twilight series. I wanted to know more about the Cullens the entire Twilight series, and we did not get as much as I wanted to during that series. So this is my dream come true, getting so much of the Cullens. Like, you get more of Emmett in this than you get in the entire Twilight series in the first like 25% of this book. It was my dream come true. Also, I really liked seeing a lot more of the vampire aspects of Twilight, about how Edward really has to control himself around Bella. And with Bella, Bella's all like, oh, he's really handsome, like, I like him a lot, I don't know why he won't like kiss me. And Edward's perspective is him literally trying not to kill her every 3 seconds. And like, it was really interesting being in his head and fully understanding why he did the things he did in Twilight. And again, I keep saying to everyone, and the second I finished this, I said this, I want the entire Twilight series from Edward's perspective, and I don't think we're gonna get it because I know Stephenie Meyer really didn't even want to like write and release this book, and this was hard for her to release. So I don't think we're gonna get it. And I will forever be sad about it. I'm not gonna lie. This enhances Twilight so much in my brain. There's so many Edward and Carlisle moments in this that just made me sob. I was very emotional this entire book. The ending scene with James, which, spoiler for Twilight, I guess, if you haven't read that, I'm sorry. But the ending scene with James was so much more interesting, not from Bella's perspective, like from Edward's and from all of the Cullens and him reading everyone's mind. Loved it. Big fan. Made me very emotional. But yes, I love this. This is probably going to be one of my favorite books of the year, as like cheesy as that is, I adored this and gave it 5 stars. I could literally talk about that book for like an entire 5 hours, so I'm just gonna stop. And then another book that really took me by surprise and I binged in probably less than 24 hours on audio is The House in the Cerulean Sea. And the best way I can think of to describe this is it feels Harry Potter-y in that you're going to like a boarding school and you're like meeting these like powered children or like children with powers. But I kept saying to anyone that would listen that this feels like Star Kid, like the people who wrote A Harry Potter Musical and all of their other musicals wrote this. Like, it's their sense of humor, and I grew up on that sense of humor, so I found it hilarious. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there were scenes in this that I just thought were so funny, and I was like actively laughing out loud, and I made the mistake of starting this at like nighttime at like 9 p.m. or something, and I was like, I don't know why I did this to myself because I want to read this entire thing right now, and then couldn't read it for like a whole day while I was at work. But I love this. I'm gonna buy this. This cover is beautiful. And I thought it was so funny. I loved our main character. I loved the Dumbledore character. He's literally described as Dumbledore. Like, they say his nose looks broken, or his nose is crooked as if it's been broken several times. He's like an older man. He's not like an old man like Dumbledore, but he's older and like very wise, and it loves these children and is in charge of them. And I loved it. I loved everything about this. I'm not gonna lie. So I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, and I'm definitely gonna buy it because, again, cover is beautiful and it was so funny. If you are a fan of Star Kid, please read this. And the last was my favorite book of the month, and that surprisingly turned out to be Middle Game. Like, probably Midnight Sun is my favorite book of the month, but like that's like half nostalgia and half just like complete fangirliness, so I'm gonna let that sit for a minute. But my favorite book of the month was Middle Game by Shauna Maguire, which I was shocked by because like the first, I don't know, 30% of this, I was like, this is fine. I really like the audiobook narrator. The twin thing is really cool. I like the twin telepathy that was going on. And then all of a sudden, it just clicked and took a turn that I was not expecting. And again, I went into this not knowing if it was like fantasy or sci-fi. And it's honestly a little bit of both. It deals with a lot with alchemy. And there was a certain aspect of this that I don't even want to spoil because I did not know this was a thing going into it that just clicked in my brain, and I was like, oh my goodness, I love this so much. I want to say what it was, but it's such a spoiler because I did not know that going in. I would say it's more sci-fi than fantasy, I will say that. And I loved the turn this took. I loved our main characters, Roger and Dodger. I loved everything about this. I like binged this book while I was like cleaning my room on like the 3rd day of the month on like a Saturday or something. And like I could not put it down. I did nothing else that day besides like listen to this while I was cleaning, and then I just sat and listened to it because it was blowing my mind. And again, I definitely need to buy this. It's gonna be one of my favorite books of the year, and I'm mad at myself for taking so long to read this. I'm not gonna lie, the reason I haven't read it is because I haven't liked Shauna Maguire's other books very much. Like, I've read one of her horror ones under her other pen name, which is Mira Grant, which is about mermaids, and that was fine. I've read 3 of her Wayward Children books. I really didn't like 2nd and 3rd one, so I gave up on that series. So I was like, oh, do I even like Shauna Maguire and her writing? And this has definitely changed my mind. So I think I'm gonna have to try more of her other books and series under her other pen names as well. Also, there were quotes in this at the beginning of like certain chapters they were from a book called Over the Wayward Wall. Over the Woodward Wall? Is that what it was called? Over the Woodward Wall. That sounds right. And I was like, what is this book? So I looked it up, and it doesn't exist. And I think she's writing it though. And I'm thrilled because I thought those quotes were really fascinating, and what I thought that world was seemed very Alice in Wonderland-y. And I think it's coming out this year. So when that comes out, I will definitely be buying that because I loved the quotes and like the glimpses into the world in that one. So I adored this. Definitely pick this up. I didn't think I liked alchemy. I know that's something that Kate really likes in her books, and I was like, I don't really know if I read that many books that have alchemy in them, but I did enjoy this very, very much. I think I gave it 4.75 stars, but really it's a 5-star book. I think I was just being picky. And yeah, those are all of the books that I read in August. I will mention I did DNF one book, and that was Children of Time by a Russian name that I can't think of. It's like Andrew Tarkovsky or something like that. I don't know. His name will be on the screen. Didn't like this. I read probably 20-25% of it on audio, and again, I do not DNF audios very often, and I DNF this because I was so bored and all the characters were so annoying and I couldn't do it. So that was the only book I DNF'd this month, which is probably good. Those are all the books that I read in the month of August. Let me know what your favorite book you read in the month of August was down below. Thank you all for watching, and I will see all of you guys next time.